I just say I hate tile. Help, nightmare floor removal. Oh my gosh. I have been a contractor for a lot of years and still am. I'm also the technical director here at RW, and this is me reacting to hardwood flooring posts on Reddit. Guys, what hardwood floor do I have? I think it's wood, question mark. Oh my gosh. I get these texted to me all the time by people across our company, and customers generally just ask us what kind of wood is this, and a lot of times it's hard. This one is not hard at all in any way. You do have wood, and I would not consider it a hardwood floor. It is OSB. That is just a typical subfloor. So OSB, oriented strand board, is just these chip flakes of wood that all get pressed into like a sheet and glued together. So it's wood and resin. I hope you did not pay a lot of money for that hardwood floor. Let's just say you did not win the flooring lottery. Walk on it barefoot. That will tell you everything you need to know. Yeah, or slide on it barefoot. Poor man's hardwood flooring. Yeah, that's poor man's hardwood floor. I mean, it's really no hardwood floor, so that's the stage for a hardwood floor. It's hard for me to imagine somebody posted that actually thinking they had a hardwood floor. I feel like that's just a troll post. What the hell is this? That looks like a disaster of a subfloor. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Let's see, our flooring contractor called this morning on day 2 of replacing our old hardwood floors to tell us he found this underneath. We are currently driving a few hours home to discuss options, but we want to get options on what to do / expect. He noted this is new to him. That's new to me. It's pretty bad. This is our second floor condo unit in Chicago, originally built in 1907. That explains a lot. With an entire building rehab in 2007. Don't know if the floor was original, but definitely more than half a century old. Last picture for comparison. Oh, that's their floor before he pulled it out. Yep. He described it as some sort of gravel, dirt, wood scraps on top of slats that sits on the joist. Then strips of 1x2 were laid over it. The old hardwood floor was nailed to the strips. Has anyone ever seen this before? What's the purposes for years ago? Can we just clear everything down to the joist and build back up with the subfloor? Other options. Yeah, that's the thing about old floors. Sometimes you pull them up and you have no idea what is underneath them. I mean, that floor is a century old, and who knows what the entire history of that is. They're asking if it's an original floor. It's probably pretty old, because putting a floor over fake joists like that, I don't want to call them fake joists, but furrings, essentially those pieces of wood that are running across the subfloor that act as support for the floor, is not something that I have seen done very recently. The thing with floors is you get into a lot of regional stuff. So like I've done floors across more markets than I can count, and every market has some weird thing that they did in that market. Some of those things are still going on. Houston, Texas uses hot tar that they mop on, and they put these little, I call them screeds, into the tar. In Florida, they make floating subfloors by gluing 2 layers of plywood, putting it over plastic, as an example. Seeing as how these people hired a contractor that were local to Chicago, who said he has never seen this, it's new to him. I'm guessing it's probably not something that was common, and it was probably a one-off thing that they did. I'm not sure really what's going on there. It does look like they put, like I said, some sort of like joist down, and then they put a bunch of trash in between those joists.
What are you doing? You asked me to help.
And I'm not sure what the purpose of the trash is, whether it was to support the floor or whether they got lazy doing it. Like here in Denver, I pulled up a floor one time and found a bunch of gravel between the joists, and it was really confusing to me until I realized there was an old fireplace there, but it was literally just where the fireplace was. It wasn't like they'd put gravel under the entire floor. So it's called a sleeper system. The floors are nailed to sleepers. Yes, yeah, you can definitely call those sleepers. Actually, that's probably the more correct term than furrings. They are also used to level in very old houses. Yep, that's true. If you have a floor that slopes off, then you literally have to build a joist system that starts small and it gets bigger as you go to the other room, and that flattens your subfloor, which is a pain in the butt to build those, but you know, you gotta have a flat floor. Otherwise you finish it and all your finish runs down to the other wall. Predominantly this. Looks like OP is doing a bad job of paying inexperienced goons to rip out passable work, still well within the lifespan, with the hope of getting something better installed by the inexperienced goons. Reddit's harsh. Talking about the lifespan of the floor. This is an unfinished floor. Unfinished floors have a lot of life on them. I mean, I've refinished floors well over 100 years old, and they look brand new once you're done. So as long as you have enough wear layer on the top, you can refinish really, really old floors. Floors are always a surprise. You always find something new. If you've been doing it long enough, you know you go into a place and you're probably gonna learn something, and you're gonna see a lot of history of the building or house. You know, like you can see old stuff, you can see some new patches in there. But yeah, you do get surprised. It's hard to be harsh on the contractors who went in there because you don't know what the homeowner wanted. You don't know what they had to replace, what they couldn't sand. And guess what? It's a surprise, and it's a surprise to the homeowner for sure because they weren't planning on that additional cost. But stuff like that comes up. So a good contractor will tell them, hey, as long as it's straightforward, this is, you know, my estimate or my price or my time frame or whatever. And if we come across any surprises, we're just gonna have to address those as we come across them. So help, nightmare floor removal. Started doing a kitchen remodel today and found out the tile was on a secondary subfloor that is glued to the actual subfloor. Has anyone else dealt with this? No, no one else has ever dealt with that. You're the first. Wow. Can I just say I hate tile? I mean, I'm a wood floor guy, so I'm kind of supposed to hate tile, but I really hate tile demo. Tile sucks. Anybody who's demoed tile knows tile sucks. You never know until you start demoing the subfloor. So if you are going out to estimate a floor, trying as hard as you can to see what the subfloor is, should be done. Like a lot of times you can't, obviously, because you're just looking at the top of the floor, but if you have any vents you can pull out and look underneath, if you can get an idea, if there's any way you can get an idea, if there's a molding you can pull up and see kind of like the edge of the floor to see how many layers you're dealing with, or anything you can do is gonna help you avoid something like this, which is assuming you have a pretty straightforward demo and subfloor and then getting into it and figuring out that you don't. I think anymore, whenever I do a floor, I just assume it's not going to be straightforward because it seems like most of the time, over 50% of the time, there is something unexpected that you come across. So with this, it looks like they have tile glued to some sort of thin plywood Luan, which is glued to more plywood. And tile, once it's glued to plywood that is then glued to more plywood, that problem just compounds. So this is why a homeowner looks at a floor and says, oh man, how hard could it be? Like, I'll just do the demo real quick, or we'll just do our floors over the weekend. It's no, because you come across stuff like this. And once you start the demo, then you are committed. Make some grid cuts with the circular saw, going almost all the way through the glued layer, and use a floor scraper or a rotary hammer to pop up sections. Makes it break clean, cleans up way quicker and easier. Makes grid bigger make grid bigger than your scraping tool, or about a foot square if that works. Smaller if that's in too many pieces. I don't think you're cutting through the stone tile with the circular saw. Rotary hammer or a demolition hammer, it's a good suggestion. Got to be careful of the plywood subfloor. If you use too aggressive of a demo hammer or a rotary hammer, you are going to punch holes or damage that plywood, which you're trying to preserve that you're putting the new floor over. Cutting it up into smaller pieces can help sometimes because you'll actually get it out in like 1 foot chunks. So that is worth trying. I like to use a big pry bar. And there's even a link to big pry bar. Yeah, a big pry bar is great. The more leverage you get, the better. You don't have to bend over as much, and you won't actually dig into the subfloor as easily with a hammer drill. Look at big pry bar. Oh, nice. I actually own that exact pry bar. I call it the tickler. You need to run a small demo hammer. Yep, demo hammer, rotary hammer. Give it a roll with a hammer drill before you cut it. Probably want to remove that tile floor before using a circular saw on it. Yes, yes. I would love to see a video of somebody trying to use a circular saw on tile and OSHA breaking in the background to stop them. You can rent a hardwood floor stripper. You can. There are machines that have a blade that goes down and it like vibrates and you go across. But again, remember, the whole thing is over a layer of plywood that you're trying to preserve. So the bigger and nastier the tool that you're using and more automated and more aggressive, the higher the chances you're going to run the subfloor you want to lay over. I don't have any great tips. I mean, all of these, there's looks like some different comments and different answers because there's a lot of different ways you can attack tile and each tile's a little bit differently, but that's what it looks like here is try some pry bars, try a demo hammer, try whatever it takes to get it off without damaging the plywood underneath. If somebody does know about a circular saw blade that will cut through 1 layer of tile and then 1 layer of plywood underneath, please comment below. I would love to have that tool and make my life easier on the next tile demo that I have to do. So to patch or to not patch, I'm going to be doing some type of vinyl flooring over this. Maybe wood looking planks, maybe 12 by 24 vinyl marble looking material. I'm wondering if it's necessary to skim coat all the subfloor joints or just patch the worst areas if it is necessary at all. It would always be helpful if people who took pictures like this put something in there to scale. I can kind of get an idea based on the size of the OSB sheaths here, how big the gaps are. It would always be awesome if people could measure stuff. That said, use a tape measure or something like that, please. Or I guess it's the internet, so you can use a banana for scale. The actual gaps themselves don't look too big. The thing that I'm seeing in the last picture here is that the panels are sanded, like the edges are sanded down. So I'm wondering if you were to stretch a piece of floor across that, whether the unsupported part is actually bigger than the gap itself. But on a lot of wood subfloors, they put gapping between the panels. If you have any expansion in the panels, then those pieces aren't flush and they won't push up and cause a ridge where the panels meet. So you do find gapping between a lot of panels, pretty normal. Those don't look like big gaps, they look pretty standard. And I think most floating floors could probably go over that. It depends on what kind of floor they have. Vinyl floors typically come in 2 varieties. There's like the rigid core products. So those are the ones if you put a plank on your hand, like generally they're gonna be pretty flat and supported. And then there are the vinyl floors, like the PVC floors, that if you put a plank on your hand, it would literally droop over your hand. And the latter are typically more glue down products. They're called square edge, dry back glue down product. If it is the more flexible droopy kind, you can have what's called telegraphing, which is you put the vinyl floor over, any sort of like undulation or deviation in your subfloor, and then that, because that plank is not as rigid, it'll start to fall down into and ride along all of those inconsistencies in the subfloor. So then the fear is later on you'd be looking at your floor and then you'd see like right across your living room this depression in your floor where the line is, or the gap between the planks, especially if the planks are sanded at the edge and they dive down and you've got a decent distance. I mean, you could certainly use a rigid core product over something like that. The gaps don't look too big for a rigid core product. It would span across that and have enough rigidity to not show that up through the surface of the floor. If those panels are sanded where you had like a large span, I might fill those in. I use glue, like I get an old bucket of flooring glue and just like trowel straight down that joint and then let it set up and then span across that. There are other ways to level out joints like that too. But the one thing I would look out for whenever you have gaps in your subfloor like that and you're floating like a click lock product or something over the top of that, is just make sure that the seams of your floor are not going to fall right along that gap as best as you can. Because if you get like a whole flooring seam all the way across the floor lining up with one of those gaps, then you'll have like a locking mechanism that's not supported right above that gap and it will probably break. So anywhere you're spanning gaps, ideally you're running perpendicular right across them, not like the side joint of 2 rows all the way down on that. So that's one thing I'd watch out for. Cats, another great day. Oh my gosh. I can smell this picture. I can smell this picture. It makes me want to go to my trailer and get my respirator right now. That looks to me like the cats have a favorite place to pee. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that looks like urine damage, which pet urine is a bad thing for wood. Pet urine has chemicals in it that will, that's caustic, will damage, will stain wood, but it looks to me like they're tearing out an old carpet floor, or an old piece of carpet, and the cats have had a favorite place to pee, so they peed in the corner a bunch, a lot. They've stained the subfloor and they peed so much they have bubbled the MDF baseboard. They've also rusted out all of the metal on the tack strip, so you can see. I can smell these pictures. Yep, I'm with you. My wife asked why we can't have a cat. Why can't we have a cat? Dogs too. Dogs too. Probably some other pets I'm not thinking about. And a lot of times, like if you have rugs over a hardwood floor, I've seen plenty of instances where the pets have been peeing in the same spot for a while. And the homeowner doesn't realize it because they pee, it dries up, or soaks in, dries up, and they never really realize that's the spot that the pet is peeing until they pull the rug up and they've got a giant black spot. A lot of other people will buy a house that has carpet, you know, they see, oh, they have hardwood floors underneath, and they think, or assume, I'll just be able to pull the carpet out and I'll be able to do all the hardwood floors. Well, surprise, surprise, you pull the carpet out and there are a bunch of dark stains on the floor that you don't realize sometimes until you like sand off the old coating, and you have pet stains everywhere, which might be why they put carpet in to begin with. So pet stains are kind of like the hidden anti-lottery ticket that you find when you go to do floors. Sometimes you can if you're sanding a floor, sometimes you can sand them out of a floor. Sometimes you cannot. Sometimes they just go so deep into the wood that you can sand and sand and sand for days and you never get it out. So that's probably, in my experience, more often than not the case. And so a lot of floor guys will go in, if they see pet stains, they just automatically assume they're going to have to replace wood in that part of the floor. And if it's throughout a whole room or a whole layout of a floor, then you end up having to replace the whole floor. So this has been me reacting to Reddit posts. If you have any interesting posts or crazy things you've seen, send it to us and I'll react to those, hopefully. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below with what you think about these.